We interrupt your day to bring you a story of exceptional stupidity. Bill Gates is he's kind of gotten canceled on the internet lately, and I just wanted to talk about it because, I know I'm not going to change any minds here. Let's get real. Let's get real. This is a YouTube video, right? But I thought I'd highlight some of these comments because I know that I wasn't aware how widespread these ideas were, And it wasn't until recently that my eyes were kind of opened at how many people believe this stuff. And it is shocking. And it makes you realize, we've all kind of had this thought in our head that, the world's becoming smarter. This generation is more scientifically literate than the generation before that. We kind of have that idea in our head. But I have bad news for you guys who believe that. I'm not sure that's true. We'll find out today, okay? So let me show you what inspired me to make this video, okay? I was just looking up something Bill Gates, and I clicked on the first video, and let me just show you. The first thing is this Ellen clip or whatever. And the first thing that I was shocked, it's got like tons of dislikes. And he's just talking about finding a vaccine to COVID-19. And I went to the comment section, I said, that's weird. And in the comment section, like crazy stuff. I love these comments. There's a hope for Americans as long as you don't fall for these turds. Let's just use vaccines from the guy who also wants to depopulate the earth. What could go wrong? Mr. Eugenics Population Control now wants to save he world with the vaccines. How ironic. Event 201, never forget. All right, and that happens no matter which Bill Gates clip you look at. Just log into a browser and just type in Bill Gates. Look up any of the videos. The dislikes are insane. The comments are insane. Let's read some more before we address some of this stuff, okay? Just came to see comments. Glad to see people aren't falling for his lies. WWG1WGA. Every interview he does, he has a huge smile on his face. What an evil man. Dude, these are real. Think about it like this. These are the top comments on YouTube videos that are supposed to be about Bill Gates, like sharing information about vaccines and stuff. Instead, the comment section have been hijacked by conspiracy theories. And the dislike ratio shows that like a substantial majority of people watching this stuff totally disagree with his model of the world. So I just wanted to dive deep on what are these people talking about? Why do they say, but why has Bill Gates been canceled? Why have they canceled him? Okay, well, it comes from a few different sources. The first one is a TED Talk that Bill Gates did. He did it in 2010, and they will cite this little clip of him where he seems to suggest that the world's going to be depopulated by vaccines. Here, roll that clip.
First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
And people take that for Bill Gates to have admitted that the vaccine conspiracy is real, He's just secretly trying to kill people. It's a Freudian slip, guys. He admits it. He doesn't mean to, but he admits it.
Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
He's trying to lower population. Now, contrary to popular belief, he didn't just admit the New World Order's secret conspiracy on a TED Talk. In fact, he was talking about a well-known phenomenon. When you lower people's mortality rates, they tend to have less kids. When people are sure that their kids aren't going to die in childbirth from preventable infectious diseases, they tend to have less kids. And this is a well-known thing he wrote about before this 2010 YouTube video. I think he wrote about it in his 2009 Gates letter. So a year before, he talks about this, learning about this interesting fact. When you improve people's health, the number of kids they have goes down. And so he's just talking about that. So he's incentivized. I mean, even if you think that Bill Gates secretly wants to lower the population, literally what you have to admit is that based on data, the best way for Bill Gates to be a eugenicist, as you guys, half the internet basically thinks he is by improving public health. That's like literally the conclusion that you come to, is that if you want to lower population, you improve health, right? That's like the irony behind it all, the counterintuitive side of it. So I don't know, who cares? Nobody believes this stuff anyway. Everybody's made up their mind. Literally all the comments in this video, I guarantee, are either gonna be people already agreeing with me or already disagreeing with me. There's gonna be not a single person who changes their mind from this video. And I'm okay with that, because that's not really the point. The other thing that Bill Gates has been canceled over is this Event 201, okay? So this is like the dumbest thing ever too, but you know, why not get into it? Okay, so Event 201 was a pandemic preparedness like summit that they did before the coronavirus was ever discovered, okay? Now, Event 201 happened to be like 3 months or 2 months before the outbreak started in China, and it was led in part by Bill Gates. And so the global pandemic exercise was they suggested a hypothetical pandemic scenario, and then they said, oh, what would we do if this happened so we can try to get ready? Well, the virus they happened to choose was a coronavirus.
A new coronavirus spread silently within herds.
And so people said, hey, Bill Gates must have not only did he predict the virus, he had something to do with it. Because, how could you guess that it's going to be a coronavirus? How can you guess that it's going to be a coronavirus with flu-like symptoms? This is a conspiracy. They must have accidentally left this website public, because obviously the New World Order wouldn't want us finding out about this, right? In actuality, you find out that literally people have been talking about there being a pandemic for years. Hey guys, I just wanted to jump in here because what I was about to say was really boring and dumb, and it just reminds me that I haven't learned my lesson that nobody cares about facts. So let's just do a thought experiment for fun. Instead of trying to use facts, let's just do a thought experiment. Here are a bunch of people who are just part of the New World Order that you guys should know about, because if you think that predicting a pandemic in a world where we were not ready for a pandemic is predicting the pandemic, then, well, people knew that if there was going to be a pandemic, it would likely be an RNA virus. So either, if you're thinking about what's the next pandemic, it's not that much of a shock to pick coronavirus, because either it's going to be influenza or coronavirus, some kind of coronavirus. That's what they were guessing. So if you think it's a big shock that they predicted it's going to be a coronavirus, they had a 1 in 2 shot of being right. Also, there are a bunch of other people who so-called predicted it, including a psychic. This girl, Sylvia Brown, was said to predict that it was going to be a coronavirus for the next pandemic in a book in 2008. So if you're mad at Billy Boy for predicting it 3 months before, try predicting it 10, 12 years before. I think Sylvia Brown's the real one we have to worry about. And so a little update that I thought was funny. If you go to the Ellen Show now, they had to shut down the comments because they were getting so brutal against Billy Boy. And it's kind of sad because he spent his whole life trying to give money away. We definitely don't deserve Bill Gates. He's given so far a total of $21 billion to charity through his foundation. And we hate him for it. So that's what you get. That's what you get for spending $5 billion on infectious disease control. It's what you get for trying to help malaria. It's what you get for giving $1 billion to tuberculosis. We don't want you. We don't want you, Bill Gates. We don't want your money and your help, because you're just part of a new world order. Clearly, dude. Just let's take a good look at the comment section again. They're coming in hot. Poor Billy. Billy did not do himself any favors. Running Event 201, how dare you try to get ready for a pandemic that you've been warning the world about for years? How dare you, Bill? How dare you try to improve the public health of third world countries? How dare you? We don't want your help. Let's look at these comments, dude. It's crazy. Judging by the comments here, old Billy Boy isn't popular. I didn't realize that B. Gates was a doctor scientist. B. Gates is nothing but a man who says one thing and thinks another. Gig is up. Everyone know about Billy Boy. We didn't simulate this. We didn't practice. Yes, they did. Event 201 last October. He's talking about the government. The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything, including my pathetic self. Yes, me, sad. How is he doing evil? Literally, look at this, man. Look at how many millions of dollars this guy has given to things, including, which I'm shocked anyone would try to get him on this. People say, like, why isn't he giving to toilets and food to people in Africa? That's why what they really need. Why is he just giving vaccines? He's also giving those things. He spent $300 million on sanitation and $300 million on basic nutrition and $400 million on healthcare. But you know what, Bill? We don't want your money. We don't want your time. We don't want your efforts because we'd rather listen to David Icke. We'd rather listen to Peter Safe. We'd rather listen to people who tell us that medicine is bad for us. And I think if we follow their advice... Ladies and gentlemen, today is an important day in the Coffeezilla Army history. Today is the day we start a brand new series. I should have started this a long time ago. Honestly, scams are bigger than ever. And one of the scams that we have really not covered on this show, but is going to be a regular piece now, are PPP loan scams, aka COVID relief. Now, I think we can all agree in a time where people are more desperate than ever, where people are losing their jobs, it's important for PPP loans, things that are intended to help people who are struggling, are used appropriately and not taken up by people who are scamming the system. So we're going to cover it. I'm calling it the PPP Chronicles.
Please, you could put it on. Thank you.
Something like the lie about the size of the PPPs and they will be caught. Oh, they will be caught. And if you have a small PPP, that is okay. But you must not lie to the government, not the government. Maybe a new girlfriend. Welcome to the PPP Chronicles.
We could give you hundreds of clips just like that. We have them. We didn't want this to go on too long.
Welcome one and all to the PPP Chronicles. Today, of course, we're talking about David Hines, a man who got $4 million in PPP money from the government and spent it partly on a Lamborghini. You heard that right. He got $4 million. Now, to be clear, how you get this money is you have to submit an application. And in that application, you have to say all the employees you're going to save because now you have this loan and all this money. So what David Hines did is he fabricated his employees and he fabricated employment expenses of $4 million a month. Not to mention, he was saying he was spending that on 70 people. Now, I'm no Rockefeller, but that math doesn't really add up. If you're spending $4 million monthly on 70 people, that means you're spending an average of $50,000 per employee per month. You're paying them what, $700,000 a year? No, it's completely ridiculous from the start. And yet he got the money. He got that $4 million from several of these PPP loan requests. And of course, now the feds have found out, but not before he spent a good $400,000 of that money, $300,000 of it being on a Lamborghini Huracan. But then there's a bunch of smaller expenses. Like here he has, on the 13th of May, he sent $15,000 to Mom. $9,500 to Heinz Cash, $15,000 to Mom. We have Miami Beach hotel stays. We've got a diamond store he went to, another Miami Beach store. Look, he's just going on a gigantic spending spree, this guy. And frankly, I don't blame him. He's got all this free money from the government. But let me say, I think the government should have known that Hines would have committed this kind of fraud because douchebags leave signs. That's what I always say. It's my saying. I've said it all along. I just made it up. But I stand by it here today. Guys, people don't just go out and take $4 million from the government with fraud. They leave clues before they do that. How could we have possibly known David Hines would have done a thing like this? Are there clues? Are there things in the past that maybe we should have realized that this guy is a douchebag? He said, sarcastically setting up the next clip.
Now at 5:30, a man CBS 4 News first met last week when he was busted by Miami police for not wearing a mask is now in much bigger trouble with the law.
Yes, David Hines is someone who refuses to wear a mask. He doesn't know if he can bring himself to wearing a mask.
I think it's hilarious. It's so ridiculous. I don't know if I can bring myself to actually participate in this insanity. I feel silly, you know?
After all, it's not like Miami's basically on fire with COVID patients right now, and it's not like that's where he lives, but actually it gets worse because this man, who at the time of this local news segment had taken $4 million from the government, also thought it would be wise to speak out about the unfairness of the PPP program.
The government, the Treasury, they gave $2 trillion for PPP loans for small businesses. 85% of it went to major corporations. Every small business I know of, they're shutting their doors. Can't pay the rent.
Here's this guy saying that, oh, the government's, they're giving the money to all the wrong people. Yeah, I guess you're a good person to say that, huh? He's saying all these small businesses are going out of business. No, apparently you're not. Apparently the program's working just fine. You got $4 million from it. Maybe small businesses around your town are going out of business because they're not forging documents like you are. So at this point, he's set for his trial in October. And in the meantime, he's out on bond for $100,000. Gee, I wonder where he got that money from. And he's currently living with his mother. Hopefully his mom is taking good care of him since he gave her $30,000. So that really paid off for him. But I hope that he gets a very serious sentence here and that it sends a message that, hey, your government can steal from you.
A kids coding camp is suing critics for speaking out against them. This is a coding camp named White Hat Junior. They're one of India's biggest startups, and they're in hot water. In response to mounting criticism, they're suing one man named Pradeep Punia, I hope I got that name right, for $2.7 million in damages. Okay, they're accusing of defamation, all sorts of stuff, which we're gonna get into. But they say, look, it's not because the guy criticized us, it's because he criticized us unfairly. According to them, legitimate, honest, fact-based criticism is truly welcome. Well, good, guys, so they should have no problem with this video right here, because we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to explain what's been going on, because I've been looking into this, and what I found is truly astonishing. And we're going to take it from the beginning, okay? So first of all, let's talk code camps real quick. They're giant right now. It's a gold rush. Well, rather, coding is a gold rush, and the coding camps are the people selling shovels. There's a lot of money in selling shovels. A lot of these coding camps, they're charging thousands of dollars to teach coding, and they basically hang an Apple or Google job in front of their applicants and say, well, isn't it worth it to pay us thousands of dollars to get this education? Now, one of the things that should be noted is there's a lot of free coding educations out there, like freecodecamp.org and many others. But some people want to go down the paid route because they think they're going to get a better education. White Hat Junior is the latest of many coding camps offering such a thing. But what makes them different is who their target audience is. Rather than targeting people in continuing education or people who are in their 20s, they're targeting children, literally. Like 6 years old is where they start, up to age 18, and they make some pretty astounding claims. Here's one of their ads right here to give you an idea of the type of advertising they do. They say, space technology is the #1 future career for kids. Your kid can learn to code a spaceship in just 46 minutes. Start free coding and a space tech trial. Okay, first of all, it's not free. It's about $200 a month. And obviously, it's ridiculous that someone can code a spaceship in 46 minutes, right? But they continue with this idea, basically telling you that actually the fact that your kid's so young doesn't mean that they're hindered from learning things like AI and ML. It actually means they may learn it faster. And you can see that in their curriculum where they show you how much your kid's going to be learning. And they tell you things like that your kid will get a game developer certificate before they've been through 8 classes of coding. So you can have your 6-year-old going through 7 classes and all of a sudden he's coding up Candy Crush and League of Legends. And this has led many people to criticize their overly simplified and almost dreamlike promises they're making to parents that their kid's going to be the next Bill Gates. And ads like this reinforce the point. They're saying that you can make a $1.2 million salary at age 13. I mean, talk about selling parents a dream. You're saying, hey, pay us $200 a month, and your kid can potentially be working at Google, it's obviously Google's campus, and be making a $1.2 million salary. And this is where a lot of the criticism is coming from. Because not only did they suggest this as a possibility, they actually said that one of their students had achieved this. Meet Wolf Gupta, an example that White Hat Jr. was using. Apparently, he learned AI to get a $1.2 million job, and he's 13 at the time when he did it. Now, here's where the cracks first start to appear. Because later on, in different ads, their story started to change. Because over here, we have Wolf Gupta learning computers at age 9. So he actually learned it quicker in the new ad. And he's making 150 crores, which is actually not just $1.2 million. It's actually $20 million. So he's younger and making way more money. And here in another ad, the story changes again, where 9-year-old Ryan, we change it from Wolf Gupta, learned computers to earn 150 crores from Google Video while other kids at his age were surfing YouTube videos. So here they are promoting a story that appears to be false, and there's no disclaimer about, hey, this is a fictional story, it's aspirational, whatever, nothing. They're saying, this is one of our students, this really happened. Now, this is where our first critic gets involved. Pradeep Punia started to call them out for this predatory behavior. And he said, look, you guys are false advertising to parents. You're not telling the truth about this Wolf Gupta character. A lot of your stories are fake. And he starts publishing a bunch of videos about it. The problem with that, White Hat Jr. doesn't like that. They don't want negative press. So what do? Rather than engaging with the criticism and saying, look, guys, we messed up, we lied, instead, they start copyright striking the man. Here's this guy. He got 5 copyright strikes in a row from White Hat Jr. and the company that bought them out. Now, they copyright strike this guy so many times that he's had to create 3 different YouTube channels where he keeps uploading criticisms of White Hat Jr. Now, already this looks really bad for White Hat Jr., who claims that they're open to criticism, right? Remember that? At the beginning of the video, keep giving us feedback to improve. Legitimate, honest, fact-based criticism is truly welcome. So what's the problem? Well, they claim that our critic here is lying and making illegal breaches that damage real lives. Now, what are they talking about? Well, to find out, let's go to the lawsuit. First thing to know about this lawsuit, it's 820 pages long. The second thing you should know about it is in the lawsuit, they admit that a lot of the criticism is true. This Wolf Gupta character doesn't exist. It was a lie. According to White Hat Jr. themselves, their own lawsuit, it was an imaginary child who the plaintiffs christened Wolf Gupta. So it's imaginary. It didn't happen. But nowhere in that thing did it say it. They were saying, hey, we got this student. He made millions of dollars with our classes. Oh, but actually he doesn't exist. Didn't you guys know he's imaginary? Didn't you know that? No, nobody knew it. So they admit in the lawsuit that that is true, but then call out our guy for saying that Plaintiff 1 had murdered Wolf Gupta when they withdrew their advertisements. They say the defendant's posts quickly turned sinister subsequent to the withdrawal of the advertisements. To this, I have to say, obviously, this is a joke. When you say, oh yeah, they murdered Wolf Gupta, that's obviously a joke that the guy's making. Nobody's going to construe that as literally they killed a kid. So that's a super bad faith interpretation. Obviously, he's just being tongue-in-cheek with the fact that suddenly this mysterious kid who's your poster child of success just mysteriously vanishes. He's saying they murdered him. It's a joke. But then the other giant allegation here is that the defendant hacked into their Slack communications things. Do you see that? Even hacked into plaintiff number 2's internal business communications platform. And this is actually where things become pretty complicated and things get kind of muddy. Because it's true that Pradeep Punia published to his Twitter and his YouTube channel multiple Slack communications from this company, but what's unclear is how he got them. Some people have said that they accidentally left their Slack public. Some people have said that he obtained a CEO password. And some people have said it was a whistleblower that released this to the public. It's not clear how he got it. In my opinion, obviously, hacking isn't okay. But if it's a whistleblower that came to him and released these images to him, I think that's a different thing altogether to release those into the public if they're of public interest. And after reading them, I definitely think they are. I'm not saying that any ends justify the means here of how you get them, but now that they're out in the public, it's interesting that the fact that they're calling them out for hacking their platform and releasing them into the public domain, they're almost confirming that these leaks are indeed real and valid. Because obviously if they were fake, they would say, oh, he photoshopped these false things. Instead, their argument is he took confidential communications and published them, which again, I'm not defending it because we don't know how he got those. But what these Slack communications reveal now that they're in the public is pretty damning. I'm going to have to censor out a lot here, just FYI. So if you see it blurred, it's because I'm trying to protect, employee information here. But basically, we see a series of screenshots of employees seeming to be reporting criticisms from various Twitter accounts, from all sorts of things, contradicting their idea that they're open to criticism and it's only, bad faith criticism that they don't like because they're just reporting everything. They even report a depressed employee who says exploitation of teachers and employees at work in White Hat Junior, 15 hours working every day, 7 days a week. Team leader warned to terminate if raised voice. Feels frustrated, depressed, suicidal. The internal Slack says, can we report the tweet also? Another one is talking about a negative video and they say, don't reply, just get the video down. So they don't want to engage with criticism. They're not interested in that. They just want to censor voices. But worst of all, I think, is this communication, which came from their CEO, okay? Somebody raised a concern and they posted to a chat where a parent or some kind of like would-be client is asking about an ad that was published where a 13-year-old is becoming the CEO of a face detecting app. And they're saying one of my students is interested in to see the app made by that student. Any ideas how to check that? So they're saying, where's this app that you claim was made by one of your students? And the CEO of White Hat Junior is saying, need to create that app now, which is so disgusting. I mean, really internalize that. They've advertised this thing. They've created this whole narrative that this was done by a kid. It can be done by your kid. You should pay us $200 a month because, you know, this is reasonable expectations, or at least this is what can be expected. And this guy's saying that when somebody asks for proof, he seems to be implying at once that it doesn't exist and that if it was to exist, it'd have to be coded by a professional engineer. To which one of their employees responds that a person can create and send it as promised, and they ask, do you want me to? Another employee responds, I can create the app. I cannot get a 13-year-old to create the company around it, at least not now. Which, of course not. And so they're saying internally that they know they can't get a 13-year-old to do this. And the CEO responds, that we will. This is so bad and demonstrates a pattern of behavior. So Wolf Gupta was not the only one that they did this with. It wasn't just one offhand thing. Multiple examples they use about, oh, these kids are coding these crazy apps and your kids can too. They are fabricating these narratives. So it's this weird thing, right? Because in the lawsuit, the Slack channel, like the Slack channel discussion, is kind of a poison chalice for White Hat Jr. Because on the one hand, they have a point. Punia should not have released private communications. You know, it depends how he got them. If he got them through a whistleblower, then he didn't hack them. I mean, that's just not true. It just depends. But the fact that they admit that these Slack communications exist and they seem to be verifying that they are real is an even worse look for the company than anything that they've admitted publicly. So that's where the story is now. It's not believable that White Hat Jr. is only going after people who are, you know, being unfair to them. They are silencing all criticism that comes their way. It's very clear from the messages that they're reporting anything and everything that can be construed as criticism at all. You can be sure that they'll report this video, they'll report any video that talks about them. And frankly, that's the part that bothers me the most. Because in order to root out corruption, scams, to tell the frauds from the people who are honest, you have to have that criticism. You have to have the open exchange, even when it's sort of intense and it can be loaded with some pretty heavy language. You have to have it. You have to have it for the people who are buying into this stuff. This is a multi-million dollar company, and it needs to be exposed to criticism to see if it holds up. And right now, they're not doing that. My hope is, as always, that the truth comes out. Thanks for watching, and we may do a follow-up on this as more information comes out. See you next time.
And don't forget to smash like and subscribe. Thank you.
Hey, let me tell you this. These day traders are out of control, okay? Because they keep promising bigger and bigger numbers. And I wonder, has common sense checked in with any of these guys? I mean, it used to be that you would say, I made like $600 on a YOLO call. Now, we're talking about turning 20K accounts, 30K accounts into millions of dollars. And some of you guys believe it.
All right, team, now check this out. Last week's results, 1.8 million, guys.
How much are you now currently up as we're doing this interview?
This week I passed 6.7 million.
In profits,
right,
from 1,500 of your own money.
And so you believe these people when they're just nobodies, and they claim to have made millions of dollars with the stock market. And I don't know where the reality checks need to start coming in, But these advertisements are getting ridiculous, and they must be getting ridiculous because they work on some people, right? Like, people do believe this stuff, and it's unbelievable.
And guess what, guys? I've officially turned $50,000 into $1 million in just 2 months.
This is Noir Trades page. Let's look at this. We're out of control. This has gone too far. 18-year-old turns 20K into $2 million in 6 months. Of course he does, right? And the Tooth Fairy helped him. Are we insane? Have we lost all common sense? But if you go to his Instagram, we see who this guy's about. Oh, sorry, that's our next guy. That's Trillionaire Club. This is our guy. Here we go. Ooh, look at this guy. Look at the jet that he rented for the photo shoot.
I'm giving away $1,000.
Sorry to stop there. Dude, you're trying to flex on people saying you made $2 million in 6 months and your giveaway is $1,000? Buddy, you need to, if you're going to convince us that you're rich, you're going to have to try a little bit harder than that. Dude, I think he overspent on the budget, dude. Look at that necklace. Look at this car. Look at the jet. He overspent. He's probably in debt, credit card debt, from paying for this little mini commercial on his Instagram. He couldn't afford the giveaway, dude.
My name is Noir Trades, and I'm known for turning $20,000 into a little over $2 million.
By the way, I love when they do that. I'm known for insert what they want to be known for. Like, dude, you're not known for that. Nobody knows you for that. You're trying to get yourself known for that by saying you're that. Hey guys, what's up? Coffeezilla here, known for my sick cars over here. I don't even talk about them ever, but I'm just known for my awesome cars. They just sit there, you know, no big deal, guys. You also may know me for my gigantic bank account, which is something I'm known for.
I'm picking 10 lucky winners, and I'm giving each one $100, just because all the support I've been receiving.
You guys have been helping me out. I'm a millionaire. So just for you guys, just because you're supporting me, $100. $100 giveaway.
It's time for me to give back. All you need to do is like this video, share this on your story, and tag 3 people in the comment section.
It's a lot, honestly, for $100. Liking, tagging 3 people, and sharing this on your story, that's a lot. But none of this is why we're talking about Noir Trades today. Because this guy has a moment on YouTube. It's sort of one of those YouTube history moments. Like the boom goes the dynamite kid.
And boom goes the dynamite.
It's just like this amazing piece of internet that I don't think anyone's caught onto yet. I don't think anyone's noticed that this has happened except for me and now you guys, because this guy ran a little commercial. Okay? He ran a little commercial on Loft's YouTube channel. If you guys know this guy, he does a bunch of chatting with millionaire pieces. He's pretty interesting guy. But what happened with Noir Trades is he actually had to, he doesn't have a big enough following for Loft to actually bring him on the channel just normally. So the guy has him pay $4,000 to get on his show. He goes, I'll probably have Noir Trades on again. I'm well aware you guys think he's a scam, but he might be. But he's paying me $4K this time, so I can't refuse. He's had him on once before, at which he paid $3K that time. So this kid is paying to be on the guy's show. Okay? That's an important part of this, to understand how hilarious this moment is. Because he comes on the show, so this is basically a commercial. And bear in mind, this kid can barely afford a $1,000 giveaway. So this is a big buck giveaway here. He comes on this guy's show, and rather than getting a commercial, he gets roasted the entire time.
This guy makes money off people, not off stocks.
We just went over that.
Well,
I actually just posted.
What's your response to that?
I mean, people. So look.
I mean, well, you see, Andrew.
I mean, people. So look.
I didn't think we'd be going over this. I paid you $4K to be on your show. I thought you'd help me out. I mean, to be fair, under the fold, he is shouting the guy out. He gives the registration. He is doing a commercial for him. But he brings up some hilarious stuff, and some of it rings really close to home. But look at how this sociopath answers one of these questions, because one of them is actually about one of his well-known frauds. This guy is a known fraudster who stole signal information from another guru. He can't even come up with his own guru crap.
Ruthless. Just so everyone knows, this guy's just copying people from other chats. He's not legitimate. Watch out. Do your research.
There it is. Guys, did you see that? Look at this response. Look at this response. This is something he has been caught doing. He's been caught stealing from other gurus and trying to sell it off as his own. Now, he wasn't even stealing that well, and we'll get into that in a second, but look at how he reacts to this.
Is that true?
Yes.
I mean, did you see anything on my screen here? Just had my Discord open, had my TOS.
Okay. Now, with that response in mind, look, he goes, is that true? You stealing from people? Did you see me stealing from anybody at this particular second? Hey, that's not what he asked. But with all this in mind, with this, let's add some context to this, because Noir Trades was caught definitively stealing from another YouTuber and another guru called Stock Hunter Trading. Now, this guy, I am not at all endorsing him. Literally, just take one look at his Twitter page to realize what kind of quality information this guy's giving out. I'm sorry, Stock Hunter. Now, how did he get caught? Well, Noir Trades joined this guy's Discord chat. Remember, he's supposedly, his origin story, it's like a superhero. His origin story was that he made millions of dollars in the stock market when he was 18 years old. So a year after this, he's caught in this guy's Discord group. Okay, this is his email up here. I'll blur it out. He's caught paying for this guy's Discord signals group, and the guy starts noticing that he's on his own Discord signals group. So this is where you pay for someone's stock tips. Idiotic. This other guy's Discord stock group, they were the same. They're giving out the same advice, and Noir Trades is giving it out like 5 minutes after. So the guy started realizing, oh, he's stealing my stock tips and just giving it to his subscribers as if he thought of it. So what he did is this. He started uploading to his chat room. This is his side right here, and this is Noir Trades over on the right. He started uploading his with a watermark. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see that down there. There's a little watermark. He'll zoom in a second. And the question is, would Noir Trades copy it with the watermarked image? Let's check it out.
I started my notes at 6:46 a.m. Noir Trades came in at 6:52 a.m. and copied me word for word. Here is my company logo, Stock Hunter Trading LLC. This is a watermark, and he is copying it.
You literally can't get more busted than this. And then imagine the fact that he doesn't even have the decency to run away and stop being a guru and just realize, hey, obviously I was faking it, guys. Haha, got a few of you, you guys paid me $200 a month for my Discord signals group, and I got like $200,000 a month total. I ripped you guys off, but haha, it was just a prank, bro. He doesn't even have the decency, the shame to do that. Instead, what he does is he goes on Loft. He tries to run a commercial thinking that no one's going to catch him.
This guy's just copying people from other chats. He's not legitimate. Watch out. Do your research.
Dude, I will pay for that to forever be enshrined. That if I ever create a Twitch chat, or I don't know if I can do this for like YouTube emotes, I want that to be one of them. Dude, just the realization, I paid this guy $4,000 and he's bringing up my biggest, most embarrassing moment of my entire career. One that delegitimizes me forever, by the way. If you ever follow this guy's Discord group while knowing this, you're an idiot. Because clearly he doesn't know what he's doing trading stocks. But not only was he stealing from this guy, he also was asking for help. So these are things he posted to the guy's Discord group while he was still a part of it. He got kicked out. Look at this. Okay, so no swing. Would you swing anything? He's talking about swing trading. Shopify 290 calls for a swing. He's asking questions because he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to trade. So he's asking for help from this guy who then he kind of steals his whole thing. And again, this is not like stealing from Warren Buffett here. Remember who we're dealing with here, guys. This is so embarrassing. If this happened to me, I would never show my face again on the internet. But this kid doesn't care. He just keeps going and going and going.
It's chats. He's not legitimate. Watch out. Do your research.
Anyway, I just thought you guys would really enjoy that. Let me know what you guys think. This is just nonstop. Where do we draw the line? I think anyone under 30, we should all not listen to, including myself, dude. If we can all take this advice collectively, I'm happy for you guys not to listen to my advice. In fact, I don't really give advice much. I mean, really, I just tell you guys who not to listen to, which is not hard to do because there's so many idiots out there. But I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life because, frankly, I don't know. Listen, Jesus waited till he was 30 to start preaching. If that's good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for me. I'm going to wait till I'm 30 before I start spitting out my guru. When I'm 30, I'm just going to create a course and I'm going to tell you all how to live your life. But until then, you shouldn't listen to me. And you shouldn't listen to all these idiots. 18 years old millionaire? No, dude. Are you kidding? It's got to stop. At some point, you got to have some life experience. It's the Caleb Maddox thing all over again, dude. The kid is 17 trying to coach everybody else. It's like, dude, you haven't earned that right to be a coach. You haven't done anything. And so that's what I'm super passionate about. At some point, we got to draw the line. I know that's going to get a lot of people. They're going to say, hey, no, I'm a 20-year-old. I'm a coach. But I'm going to say no, dude. And if you doubt me, if you think I'm wrong, come on the show. Please. It's been a while since we've done a debate. I'd love to talk about this. Do you think that 20-year-olds should be coaches or they should be running masterminds? Do you think they should be teaching all the rest of us? Let me know in the comment section below. I know that's a little sensational. And as always,
don't forget to smash like.
This little box is part of a $1 billion network no one uses. It's called a helium miner, and I was gifted it by a friend who told me that it would pay me every day just to sit on a shelf. How? Radio waves, magical thinking. I honestly didn't care. It was free for me because it was a gift. I'm heavily in debt from the $10 million studio, obviously. And so I had nothing to lose. And fast forward 4 months, we finally have the results, and they aren't great. I've made $22 with this little thing, which is a 20th of the cost of the actual machine. It retails for about $400, which means if I had paid for it, I'd break even in about 6 years. But even worse, the daily rewards of the helium miner have been falling fast, partly because of the discovery that most of the revenue of this network come from other miners buying more miners. And finally, it looks like it's collapsing, with users complaining very loudly on Reddit, and things just look really bad. And today, I want to tell the story of how that happened, how this little company, Helium, grew a $1 billion organization building a network no one uses. Helium was a company that originally started without the idea for a crypto coin. It was first a company trying to help build the Internet of Things. You guys have all heard that buzzword before, right? Internet of Things, or IoT. It's basically the trend of putting Bluetooth in your toothbrush, radio sockets in your socks, basically connecting everything with the internet, even things you wouldn't expect, like this ring on my finger right here. Right now, it's selling health data to some overpaid pharma rep as we speak. That's IoT. And the point is, if you're going to connect everything to the internet, these IoT devices, which are much smaller usually, have different needs than something like, I don't know, your phone. You don't need to transmit large amounts of data. You're dealing with tiny batteries, and you need these devices to work over long distances, which is why Helium uses a special frequency range called LoRaWAN, also known by its much catchier name, LongFi. And you don't need to fully understand LongFi to just know that Helium set out to kind of catch this wave of Internet of Things devices. But as they set out to build this network, there was a big problem, because how can you afford to build a huge network without people paying for it first? And on the other hand, how do you get people to pay for you to build a network without building it first? It's a classic chicken or egg problem. And Helium struggled with this until they found out about crypto and devised a way to do both at the same time. They did this by creating a crypto token called Helium Network Token, or HNT. It works in two ways. On the one hand, it rewards people who set up hotspots, that's on the supply side. And on the other hand, if you want to use the network, you buy HNT and spend it on the demand side for data credits, which is simply a tiny packet of data. And the idea was early adopters who set up little hotspots like this would make lots of HNT, which in the future would be valuable as more and more people needed to buy these data credits. It all sounds pretty good, right? So what's the catch? Well, for a long time, this really was the rocket fuel that propelled the Helium network. And it was pointed to as a real use case of crypto. I'm sure you've heard before, like, what do we actually use crypto for? Well, oftentimes people would point to Helium network as a great example of real world use cases of crypto, because a single crypto coin was bootstrapping an entire wireless network. No small feat. And for a while, things were going great. Hundreds of thousands of regular people were setting up and spreading the word of wireless hotspots. And of course, passive income.
This is the best way to make passive income.
Passive income.
Passive income.
And I can't stress enough how much of the adoption of these Helium miners were due to thoughts about getting rich and passive income. And initially, payouts were eye-watering. It was a lot of money. Some miners were making hundreds of dollars, if not $1,000 a month, just from one miner. And if you consider that each of these cost about $400, it wasn't hard to see why many people quickly ordered more and then more. because they're literally little money printing machines. And demand for these machines grew so fast that it actually became impossible to order them for a while. They were just out of stock. People even joined wait lists that were over 6 months long for these things. But eventually, these supply issues were able to be worked out, and the supply of these little guys exploded. Just in the year of 2021, they started the year with 14,000 of these hotspots deployed, and they grew that to 450,000 in 1 year. That's over 3,000 hotspots a day. Right now, they have 900,000 hotspots, which by anyone's standard is impressive. However, behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. The first sign of trouble is when Helium started to reach a saturation point in the market for hotspots. Basically, Helium operates on a grid system where you're incentivized to provide coverage in high usage areas, but if you have too many people around you, it hurts your profits. So in an area like this, it really isn't profitable. This made it so that more and more people were competing for increasingly smaller shares of profit as the Helium network exploded. And that might have been okay if on the demand side, Helium had been seeing increasing adoption. Selling the actual product of connecting the Internet of Things. But unfortunately, that's not what was happening. By looking at the data that the Helium network themselves provide, we see absolutely abysmal rates of adoption. Remember that in 2021, the number of hotspots went absolutely parabolic, as you can see here. And one would hope that usage would follow. But looking at the data credits used, we see a different story. Now, I'm going to have to explain what this chart means, but basically, this is the entire revenue of the network, the data credit usage. But not every part of this chart represents actual demand for Helium, because there are several ways you would use data credits in Helium. For example, it costs $10 in data credits, for example, just to set up one of these mining hotspots. But that isn't actually someone connecting an Internet of Things device. And the same is true if you want to change the location of this device. It costs another $10. You can also be charged fees for using the network, and there are all these proofs about if your hotspot is where you say it is. But none of this is actually the system doing what it's designed to do, which is connect these devices. Instead, that category of data credit usage belongs to the data transfer category. This you can see in yellow. And if we take a close look at this chart again, you can hardly see the actual usage of the network in comparison with all the insane amounts of data credits burned for everything else. This means a few things. Actual demand for this network is almost non-existent. Literally in June of this year, it was reported that the actual demand revenue for Helium was only $6,500. This was reported by the Generalist, and it's hardly enough money to justify a $1 billion valuation. Now, the CEO of Helium, Amir Halim, responded to these accusations, arguing that while the numbers are true, they weren't fair because the total revenue of the network is insanely high, $54 million over its lifetime. But I think he's confusing things here because we all know that the Helium network is being used a lot. The problem is who's using it. This whole adoption scenario by real people we've been promised isn't happening. Instead, it's all the miners who are using the network of other miners. For example, in the last 30 days, you could argue Helium made $1.8 million in network fees, but the actual demand side of these fees was only $2,000, meaning 0.1% of the network revenue is from actual Internet of Things usage, which is just horrible. And understanding this starts to make sense of why miners were actually making so much money early on. It wasn't because people were actually using the network. It's because other miners were onboarding thousands of new hotspots a day and paying tons of fees. It was sort of like a Ponzi-like system where old investors were paid from new investors, and once the market got saturated, it was all doomed to fall apart. And many of the investors who got involved for those passive income dreams are now left with expensive plastic boxes that may never pay off. That's of course assuming this LongFi dream doesn't work out, because some optimists will argue that the reason LongFi hasn't been adopted yet is because no one was building products for LongFi when it wasn't a thing. Now that it's a thing, people are going to build the products and adoption's going to grow in the next 5 years. That's their argument. But I have to say, I'm a bit skeptical given the unit economics of Helium, because think about it. On the one hand, their pitch is that their data is way cheaper, 360 times cheaper according to their CEO. On the other hand, the amount of data helium wants to sell you is by design tiny because of the frequency band. So you're selling a tiny product and you're selling it 360 times cheaper. How do you become profitable with that? You have to be servicing absolutely massive numbers of devices. And I'm just not convinced that's going to happen because I already own plenty of Internet of Things devices, and most of them just use Bluetooth or 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi. I don't need long-fi. And I guess this all begs the question, how, if this data was sort of always public, did we miss this for so long? How did Helium manage to convince so many people that they were on the cusp of being successful? Well, it's on this front that it turns out the Helium team may have been misleading customers, because for a long time, Helium advocates would point to key partnerships as a sign of real-world use right around the corner. They advertised two really important companies in particular, Lime and Salesforce, both recognizable and large brands. However, it was recently reported to Mashable that these partnerships weren't really real at all. The scooter company Lime says they only tested the product 3 years ago, and part of the condition was that they couldn't use their name for promotional material because it wasn't a real partnership, it was like a trial. And according to The Verge, Salesforce also wasn't in a real partnership with Helium. They say, quote, Helium is not a Salesforce partner, and that they don't use the technology. So, oops. Now, once again, I have to tell you that Helium responded to this and said it's all a misunderstanding and they just made a mistake. But on this front, I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think it's far too convenient that they were able to use these large brands to make themselves look good. And I just think they're upset they got caught. Now, with that, you're sort of caught up to speed with Helium as of now. And the question, of course, is now what? They're obviously in trouble. They have a huge network with hardly any real customers, but they do have a lot of loyal miners. So what's next for them? They're pivoting. They want to move into another network category with potentially more adoption, that is 5G. And like last time, they want this to be rolled out by their faithful investors who built their first big network. The catch, of course, is that you can't use your old device for 5G. You need to buy a new device, and it's much more expensive, like 5 times more expensive. And from here, it kind of gets complicated. They set up some sub-DAOs. They created a new token to represent this. But even so, it seems like there are people willing to go along with this ride too, because already 2,000 5G hotspots have been set up in 47 states. It's pretty shocking given how bad their rewards are right now that people are just dumping more money into their new project. But either way, I think more than anything, this shows how good crypto is at getting buyers before demonstrating real demand for a product. It shows how people ignore actual fundamental value when faced with the enticing opportunity of passive income. And it also shows how much early adopters just want to see those 100x gains that may or may not come. We may never know for years whether Helium's plan to bootstrap a wireless network from scratch will have worked. But what we do know is they certainly aren't the ones who paid for it. And to be fair, neither am I. I didn't pay for this thing, so in a way, I'm not too upset. I'll probably go plug it back in and make my pennies until either I'm a millionaire or it stops being worth the electricity that it uses. But for those of you thinking of jumping in, investing in Helium and these crypto schemes that are going to change the world, this is a really cautionary tale. Just because you build it doesn't necessarily mean customers will come. In 2022, you either die a hero or live long enough to sell NFTs. That's the new YouTuber life cycle. And today, we get the rare chance to see the final form of the greedy influencer. That's right, the legendary Doublest Downus. I'm of course talking about Jake Tran's recent response. Jake Tran is a YouTuber who spent years exposing evil businesses, but now has been doing the same things that he accuses others of. And last week, I showed how he had started selling NFTs in videos about how bad NFTs are, or selling crypto in a video about how crypto is. And it was just so weird to watch. It felt like your high school counselor was suddenly trying to sell you drugs right after a DARE presentation. I mean, on the one hand, it's so shameless, it's funny. On the other hand, it's very gross. Now, soon after this video came out, Jake got backlash from his community, and he finally responded to all the accusations. And honestly, I'm surprised. I was expecting a response somewhere along the lines of either, I didn't know it was a scam, or it's not a scam, but he didn't even try that. Quote, what did you expect out of a channel that teaches you to be evil? Lol. Now, I'll be honest, I clearly was fooled. I thought his whole series on evil business videos were exposés, but apparently it's a big to-do list. Like, I think Jake saw this all as a big WikiHow. He's the type of guy to think that The Wolf on Wall Street is like a checklist and not a cautionary tale. And, you know, on the one hand, I do really appreciate the honesty of this. But on the other, much more important hand, you're kind of admitting that you don't care if your audience gets scammed by you, which it seems really wrong. Now, that being said, I'd at least respect it if he fully committed to the villain arc. But Jake softens it in the next paragraph and says, in all seriousness, I put my heart and soul into making free premium videos. Every sponsor on this channel helps fund this channel so we can keep upping the quality and quantity. So if you don't like the sponsors, skip the ads, don't buy from them, or unsubscribe from the channel. So basically, he's not sorry. He had to do the scam ads to keep up with the quantity and quality of his videos. But I don't know if I really buy this, to be honest. I mean, look, I like Jake Tran videos, but let's not pretend they cost a fortune to make. He literally uses B-roll from other people's movies for his visuals, and then he farms out his research to like articles and Wikipedia, maybe a book or two. So this whole thing about like, I had to do these ads, otherwise I couldn't possibly produce this quantity and quality of videos. It's like, my guy, you barely make your videos as it is. Your visuals are from filmmakers. You're snagging their clips for fair use. And then lately, he's been farming out even the voiceover of his work, which it's like, I'm not against that, but pretending you're making some Oscar-winning documentaries that require our blood money to fund is a little bit much. And then there's also the thing about like, hey, just don't click it if you don't like it. Just unsubscribe. But I don't think Jake realizes that this undermines every single one of his videos, because why would you complain about tobacco or DuPont or any of these evil businesses when they could just turn around and say the same thing? Like, hey, if you don't like it, don't buy it. Unsubscribe. Why are you buying our cancer sticks, right? Like, which would obviously be missing the point, but is the exact same argument. And this isn't even to mention the fact that Jake Tran isn't a soulless corporation, at least not yet, but rather is a YouTuber with some level of accountability to his audience. And that all makes the next part of his response even more confusing. He says, I love all of you more than any of you could realize. You changed my life in every way possible. Okay. I don't know what to do with this. Like, nothing in these two paragraphs seems to have anything to do with the other. They're diametrically opposed. Like, unsubscribe if you don't like the scam ads I'm running, but also, I love you very much. I don't know if I buy this. I mean, I'm sure his life did change, but I think he's happier about the money part of the equation, clearly. Jake finally ends the response, I apologize for nothing. Stay dangerous. So he's not sorry, all of you who got ripped off. Just in case you were wondering if you felt any bit of remorse, the answer is no. And I'm assuming he's one of these guys who thinks apologizing on the internet is like having your pants pulled down in front of the whole class. It's the worst thing that could happen to you. And maybe that's true for some influencers, but if you're the guy exposing corruption, you can't just like shrug off being corrupt yourself. It destroys your whole appeal. And I think this just highlights a problem that I have with Jake's general mentality. Like, I may be wrong about this, but I think he thinks that being a little bit evil is like necessary and important to survive in this world. In fact, that's sort of the point of his entire stay dangerous sign off. He said before that this is the purpose of his channel and even quotes Machiavelli to suggest that you can't be a good guy.
And that has become the purpose of this channel, to expose how this world of power really works, to help you navigate this world, to level out the playing field for the powerless, to help you become more dangerous. Because as Machiavelli once said, any man who tries to be good all the time is bound to come to ruin among the great number who are not good.
So there it is. He just says it like his job is to make you more dangerous, I guess by selling you scammy NFTs. But it's pretty clearly and heavily implied that like being good and doing things the right way is like a sucker's game. It's a loser's bet, which obviously I really disagree with. I think Jake thinks he's found the red pill of life. And I just kind of feel bad for him for that because I'm almost positive this is going to backfire on him in a big way. But I don't know, maybe that's my naive perspective. I have seen a lot of influencers just getting away with scamming their audience and they just don't care. So maybe we're in a new world, but in my opinion, you know, you can get ahead in the short term by cheating a little, selling out your audience. But once you get that reputation, it sticks. And all in all, I think it was a pretty terrible response. Maybe like a 3 out of 10. That's basically it. See ya.
All the promises you made, all the kids you said you'd save, but what a shame, you're a fraud. Are you the same as who you're saying? No, you're not. Okay, bruh, know your story made up. Apologize, but really somehow you ain't say much. What a waste of someone with their fame up. You took from everyone, including all your day ones. I can't believe it, still the truth you need to spill. You proof the greed is real, you can't delete it. Chill, from the start it was doomed to fail. I heard you can't go to the moon from jail. All the promises you made, all the
Logan Paul is refunding people he scammed if they promise to stop suing him for the vastly larger amount he may owe them. And honestly, I'm conflicted because on the one hand, victims getting money is always great. And I'm proud that our investigation led to some real-world consequences. But I can't pretend that things are fixed or fine for people who entrusted me with their story when that's just not true. So here's the real, more complicated story in 3 parts: the refund offer, the zoo tokens, the lawsuit, starting with the most important part. And if you get one thing from this story, this should be it. These are the estimated damages in CryptoZoo, $18.5 million, which comes from a combination of ZooCoin and NFT sales. And then this, much smaller percentage of that pie, is what Logan is actually offering to refund, on the condition, though, that all of the people who spent the last year suing him for the larger damages drop their case. So that's a refund of only 12% to drop 100% of the case that, as far as I can tell, Logan may be losing. Put in that light, then, this refund starts to look less like a good faith attempt to make things right and more like a cynical bargaining chip to avoid getting in even more trouble. And a careful look at these refunds conditions show that Logan is even less serious of a person you may give him credit for. Logan is offering only a 1-month claim window for this refund, given a year after waiting, and hidden in this wall of text is the most shocking part, which is that he's not releasing the CryptoZoo game at all. Which, I know we all kind of knew that, but is actually insane, because that's the thing, to be clear, he's sold millions of dollars of NFTs for and tens of millions of dollars of in-game CryptoZoo tokens for. I knew he wasn't going to make it, right? We all get that. But I watched for 3 years as Logan's fans, and that's what these investors were. They were fans of Logan Paul. They spent 3 years begging this guy to make this game. And the entire time, he told them he was working on it. And I thought, even at my most pessimistic, that Logan would at least crap out some abomination that he described as a game that limped past our lowest collective expectations. But I was wrong. I mean, I wasn't wrong the first time he said I was wrong when he said he was going to still finish the game. I was wrong that he was going to do it at all.
But even after 12 months of work, you've still managed to overlook one crucial piece of information. See, even though I've said it's coming so many times, you've assumed that CryptoZoo isn't being made. Who are you to decide when the development timeline ends? Trust me, CryptoZoo is coming. I will make damn sure of it.
Oops, so much for making damn sure of it, because there's no game. This is what makes this such a massive con. This guy sold millions in NFTs, tens of millions of zoo tokens, and he's not even going to release the thing he promised this whole time. This is why it's such a slap in the face. These investors spent 3 years waiting for a game. Not only that, 2 years waiting for an update, which he never gave, and then a year suing him. And after all of that, all he offers is a 12% refund, no game, 30 days to accept. So look, Logan's already taking heat for making good on a promise that he made a year late, but that's not even true. He's not making good on this promise because it's not the same promise. Last year, what he promised was no strings attached buyback and you get a game. This year, it's please drop your lawsuit and you don't get a game, which is incredible to me that there are influencers out there like KSI parading this around like a win for Logan Paul, like he's some sort of hero for offering a year late, half-baked settlement offer. KSI says, what will the haters say now? I don't know. How about where's the game? Where's the art? Where's the millions invested? Where's the motivation for this tweet? Oh, wait. KSI is a co-founder with Logan and Prime. So, of course, that makes KSI Logan's new biggest fan. But seeing as how Logan treats his biggest fans, don't say I didn't warn you. So that's part one, the refund. Now part two is the zoo tokens. Remember, there were 2 parts to CryptoZoo, the zoo tokens and egg NFTs. Now, the tokens were the vast amount of damages that were actually caused. while the NFT sales were much lower. Logan conveniently wants to refund this much smaller part of his game, the NFTs, while pretending that these zoo tokens were never a real part, they were just gambling. Now this was sort of less bad when the game was still gonna come out because, it made some sense, maybe you'd still have these tokens, but now it makes no sense at all. From Logan's statement, this buyback is a way for me to make whole those who intended to play CryptoZoo. The buyback is not intended to compensate those who gambled on the crypto market and lost. So he's describing people who bought his in-game currency as gamblers. But that's confusing, because the whole point of these zoo tokens was to buy the egg NFTs and play the game. That's literally how it worked according to him. So instead he calls people gamblers, despite also saying, quote, Zoo token was created to support the CryptoZoo game and its players. It was, quote, not intended to be an investment vehicle. So how can he say that, then turn around and say people who bought this were gambling? If it's not an investment, how can you refund people who intended to play CryptoZoo if you don't refund people who bought the token that was, quote, created to support the CryptoZoo game? You can't. It makes no sense. And this is why I say this isn't even close to a full refund. And now that he's abandoning the game, what we actually have is millions of dollars of in-game currency Logan sold that he won't pay back. Which brings us to the final part of this story, the third part, the lawsuit. After telling all his fans that they were gamblers who lost, Logan has one final surprise. He says, quote, I have filed a lawsuit in federal court in Texas to hold these bad actors accountable, people who ruin CryptoZoo. But what Logan doesn't tell you is that Texas lawsuit is something he's being sued in already. He's a defendant in the lawsuit that he links in his tweet. He's just cross-suing his co-defendants. Like, he's already being sued, and he's just re-suing the same guys who are already being sued. And who are these secret bad actors Logan's going to hold accountable anyways? Turns out it's his employees he hired, Eddie Ibanez and Crypto King, which all of us already knew because I investigated the story a year ago. But imagine my surprise when Logan Paul tries to rewrite my investigation to pretend he did all the work himself and uncovered the real scam of CryptoZoo while simultaneously trying to erase his part in it. He says, and I find this very funny because I spent a year on that story, quote, this lawsuit is the result of an exhaustive investigation that included the review of the entirety of conversations. You'd be forgiven to think he was quoting my investigation. He's not. He copied it and tried to rewrite it to make himself look good. In this lawsuit, he says things like, hey guys, turns out Eddie Ibanez's entire backstory was a fabrication, including the MIT NFL story. Can you believe it? It's like, yeah, we know. And then he goes, yeah, well, you won't believe what I discovered. Crypto King secretly sold tokens. Yeah, we know. Logan just shamelessly rips off my work claim for claim without citing me. I mean, he says things like Mr. Greenbaum would later admit that he made millions of dollars through his surreptitious sales of zoo tokens. But where did Logan find that admission? Was it perhaps when he investigated my video? Time and time again, this lawsuit copies my work, but is embarrassed to cite it. So they even have to say things like, based on public reports. What public report? Mr. Ibanez made approximately $1.7 million from selling zoo tokens. I could swear I've heard that before. And for my calculations, he made about $1.7 million. Now look, I don't usually mind people using my work, but it's kind of a little strange that Logan is simultaneously trying to discredit my work, saying this lawsuit is not based on snippets of conversation taken out of context, a snipe at my investigation, while then stealth quoting it to pretend that they did any real legwork. And look, if you found that shameless, that he tries to steal my work and pass it off as his own investigation, this next part gets even worse. Because Logan's story this whole time has been that it's all other people's fault. It's just bad actors. Everyone but him was bad. He was always well-intentioned. But his timeline contradicts him. According to his investigation, which is actually my investigation, in August and October of 2021, he learns that Jake Greenbaum and Eddie Ibanez are bad news, and he kicks them out of his team. So what does he do after that? He's gotten rid of the bad actors, can't blame them anymore, right? Does he make CryptoZoo? No. For a full year before I made my video, Logan Paul had full control over his project. He admits it in his own lawsuit, and he did nothing. He said nothing. So how does he avoid accountability now? Well, enter the whipping boy Jeff. That's right. Manager Jeff is making one last appearance. Logan blames Jeff for screwing up September 2021 through 2022. But you know what he doesn't mention? What he'll never mention? The real reason the project didn't get back on track is not because of Eddie, not because of Crypto King, but because Logan's own team stopped paying developers who are working on rebuilding the game. So those people stopped working on CryptoZoo. And that's when I found it. The game was dead. It had been dead for months. And that's when I made a big stink out of it. Meaning, it was 100% within Logan's power to save this game. I'm not saying nobody else did bad things, but Logan ultimately had over a year to launch it, to make things right, and he didn't. For financial reasons. Not because someone backstabbed him. He just didn't want to spend the money it would take to make things right. And you know what? That is still true now. It is still 100% within Logan Paul's power as a near billionaire with Prime to make things right, fully right, with his fans who he scammed. And if he gave a full refund, we would all celebrate. Me foremost. But will he? Or will he try to dodge responsibility, cheap out, rip his fans off, and avoid accountability? I think it's the latter. So, those are the three main points. You're all caught up. To recap, part one, refunds. They're being used as a bargaining chip to drop a lawsuit, and so he never has to produce this game, which has been promised for 3 years, and he's sold tens of millions of dollars for. Part two is the Zoo tokens. He's pretending they're not for a game that they definitely were for to avoid refunding people, when in fact he admits they were created to support the game. Part three is the lawsuit, where he stole my investigation, tried to pass it off as his own, but just cuts out the part where he did everything wrong and leaves out the entire year where he was solely in charge of the project. No bad actors. He could have fixed everything, but he didn't because he's cheap and doesn't want to pay anybody. Anyway, I hope that catches you up with what's been going on, and I hope we as a community can have the nuance and complexity to hold in our minds two things at the same time as true. One, it's always good if victims get any money back, and we should celebrate that. However, number two is that doesn't mean we can't fight for 100% of what they deserve. And Logan Paul is not a hero for doing this or making things right. He's a serial scammer who's offering a minority refund as a last-ditch effort to save. Again, thank you for coming on the program. I just want to introduce you for everyone who doesn't know. This is Dr. Brian Nosek. He is the director and co-founder of the Center for Open Science. Is that correct? Am I getting that right? And he's done a lot of work into the reproducibility crisis and how we make science better. And I think he's the perfect person to sort of put it together, because so far I've made a giant mess and described the problem and absolutely given zero.
Oh, great.
One of many who's described the problem, but it's an easier problem to describe than it is to put back together. Yeah. So I was hoping that we could all lean on your expertise and get a few solutions. So I won't make you totally resell the problem, because I've done a lot of that legwork in the other videos, but I'm hoping that this interview we can really drill in on how to make science better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at the core, the key solution is to align scientific values, how we idealize science to operate, with what's actually incentivized and rewarded in daily practice. And right now, the core problem is that I'm rewarded more for getting things published rather than getting them right. And so what do I need to do to change the behaviors in the broad scope or the incentives so that I am rewarded for being transparent with my work, making my work reproducible, and trying to be as efficient and open as possible so that the self-correcting mechanisms of science can operate.
Right, and that's really the problem. We just need more self-correction and more open data, more incentive, because as you said, scientists, they don't feel like they're even maybe allowed to do it. They feel like it's risking their career to be super rigorous, all these things. So what work have you done, and where are we seeing progress in this area?
Yeah, so the conceptual model of behavior change here is, at the base, is you need technology to be able to do the new behaviors, right? If I believe in openness, I believe in reproducibility, I believe pre-registration is a good solution, well, I need a place to be able to do that. So technology is one. The second level of the solution is that it needs to integrate with my research workflow. I'm busy, I've got lots of things to do. If you don't make it efficient for me, it's going to be hard for me to adopt that behavior. Those two are sort of base assumptions. And then the keys on top of that are the norms. What is it that others do in my community? And just as you said, well, I might believe in open data. And when you ask people, researchers, do you believe in transparency? Almost everyone says yes, right? You can't really be a scientist and say, no, you can't. You just have to trust me. But people also see no one else is doing it. And so we have to address the norms. We have to show that other people are doing it and make it so that it's easy for me to do it. On top of that is the incentives. I can't just see that others are doing it. I need to be incentivized to be doing those behaviors. It needs to align with my interests in order to adopt. And then ultimately policy, right? I need to have the policies in place by institutions, by journals, and by granting agencies to make it so that these behaviors are in my interest and required to be able to be an employee, granting agency, whatever, get grants, whatever. Okay, so examples at each level to show where progress is being made. Let's start at the top, policy. There is a guidelines framework that we and many others worked on to develop called the TOP guidelines, Transparency and Openness Promotion. And the idea of these guidelines is to provide us a common language, a framework for what are the behaviors that we want researchers to do collectively. So it has 8 different standards: open data, open materials, pre-registration of studies, replication, and then it has 3 levels of adherence. So level 1 is just disclosure. I don't have to share my data. I just have to say whether my data are available or not. Level 2 is required. You have to share your data. Level 3 is not only do you have to share your data, but we're going to check. Right? So if a journal adopts the top guidelines, then they decide what levels of each of these different standards they want. And then those are their policies for the researchers. So, and because it's a common framework, it's for any discipline to adopt and could be adopted by funders or journals or institutions. With that particular policy intervention, we now have more than 1,000 journals that have adopted the top guidelines and implemented these expectations for their authors. And all of the major publishers have at least signed on to the guidelines, even if they haven't yet finished the adoption process at their journals. So that's some progress, right? 1,000 journals is not trivial.
That's great progress.
Are the the leading journals, as it were, or at least the ones that get a lot of attention. And so that's moving incrementally. There's still funders are starting to pay attention to those issues and some have done some leading work of adapting their policies towards openness promotion. And where it's most distant right now is with institutions. Haven't yet done a whole lot at the institution level. All right, so that's the top policy. Second level, incentives, right? How can we get my interests for advancing my career aligned with the values? The best intervention that we have so far that's realigning the incentives is register reports. Right? So register reports, the idea is it's a journal-based intervention where instead of me submitting my final work, all of it's done and I need to get through peer review. And so I needed to have exciting results that reviewers will be enthusiastic about to say this is innovative and going to change everything. Register reports has the primary stage of peer review before you know what the results are. And so what changes in the incentives is instead of needing to get sexy results, I need to submit things that are really important questions and great methodologies to test those questions so that the reviewers and the editor says, we need to know the answer to that. Go do that work. Right? That shift of moving peer review to prior to knowing the results is a fundamental change in the incentives for everybody in the process. And already we have more than 200 journals that have adopted register reports, and the early returns are suggesting that this is working. And how is it working? Well, 60% of articles published through registered reports have no results as their primary outcome.
That's awesome.
It's incredible, right? Because the existing literature is more than 90% positive results. Everybody always finds support for the things that they're investigating. But we know that's not what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you don't know what the outcomes are, the process works as it should. We're asking important questions. We're actually designing tests to test them, and we're finding out what the answer is. And that's getting into the literature. Simultaneously, those outcomes, lots of editors say, oh, well, that's why I don't want to adopt registered reports, because that's boring. No one will ever cite, negative results. But the evidence doesn't suggest that's true. Instead, the results are persistently cited, at least in these early months, as much as other articles in the same journals. So that's an incentive-based intervention. And 200 journals, again, is not trivial. What we're trying to really advance now in registered reports is partnerships between journals and funders, right? So now we can get stakeholders working together by having a funder and a journal commit to a single review process where if you get it through review, you get the money and you get the commitment to the grant or to commitment to the publication.
Talk the people at home back through why that's important and what is different about the situation now.
Yeah, so the key here is that in what I do now in the lab is I spend all my time writing grants, and all the grad students and postdocs in the lab spend all their time writing papers, and then I edit the papers. And it's two separate review processes, both of which are highly burdensome and both critical for how it is I can advance my career. If we put these two together into a single process, it just makes it worlds more easy for me as an author to say, here's some interesting questions I might investigate. Is it worth me putting time into investigating them? Well, I can submit essentially a pre-proposal to a journal and get both rewards, the money and the publication through a single process. Funders also really like this because if so many funders fund research that never goes anywhere, right? It's conducted, but it's never reported. All the stuff that never gets published.
Got it.
Right? And so now
you get both.
You get both, right? The funder gets a pre-commitment. We're funding this research and a journal's already committed to publishing it. So no one dislikes it. Everybody's like, yeah, let's figure out how to make that work. And so it's still early. We have a few good pilots, but not a systemic adoption of that as of yet, but that's the direction.
I was kind of surprised going into this and learning more about how real science goes on, not just how it is in the movies or whatever. How much time is spent writing grants is unbelievable. Yeah. I heard something like 20 to 30% of, and if you just think about that in terms of the research missed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's massive. The opportunity is massive to really change the system and get back some of that time and just do more research.
Exactly, right. I spend so much time trying to get money to do the work rather than just doing the work. And that's a real counterproductive process in the grand scale. Of course, we need to be judicious with how we distribute resources and things, but surely the system can be more efficient than it is right now. So that's a big area for innovation, exactly as you said. Okay, so we did an example of policy, we've done an example of incentives, an example of norms, right? How do we show that, well, yeah, everybody else has these values, but no one's doing it? We have a very simple intervention for this that's showing some effectiveness, and that is badges. So at a journal, the journal can say, well, we're going to adopt badges for if you do some of these behaviors, like the top guidelines, open data or open materials, pre-registration. And if your paper gets accepted in our journal and you do those behaviors, then we'll put a badge on your article saying open data, and here's a link to where you can find the data. Or here's a pre-registration, here's a link to it. That's a little incentive for the authors, right? I get some acknowledgement for having done the
right.
But it's a real intervention for changing norms. And that's the key, right? Is if I, as a reader, never see other people doing these behaviors, then I believe that no one does them, right? No one shares their data. I don't notice it. No one pre-registers. I don't see it. Badges are a way to signal when those behaviors are occurring, making them more visible so that the early adopters who are saying, I just want to do this stuff because I think it's a good thing. I don't care about the incentives. I don't care about what the culture is like. I just want to do it because I believe in it. Their behaviors become visible. And making their behaviors visible makes it so that people who are inclined toward it, but want to see that others are doing it, well, then they start to do it. And once they start to do it, then those that are sort of like on the fence about it say, oh, geez, now a lot of people are doing it. Maybe I should do it. Right? So you can shift norms, especially if the values are present, very quickly by making them really visible. The first journal that adopted badges was Psychological Science, and did so January 1st, 2014. For the 2 years prior to that, they had 3% of the articles had open data in Psychological Science. 3%, right? No open data. After that, within 18 months, 40% of the articles had open data.
Whoa.
That's in 2015, right? This year, 90% of the articles in Psych Science have open data, right? The change there is an absurd amount of change. And of course, lots of things are changing, but it has far, far outpaced change in other areas of psychological science or other journals. And I think the role of norms is essential here. That people in the field hear that these are important issues. They see that this journal cares about it. The journal has created this policy framework with badges to make it visible. And so more and more people do it. That's just the thing we do now at this journal. So the combination of these things, right? Policy, incentive, and norms, and then the infrastructure that we and many others also provide infrastructure. Ours is called the Open Science Framework. Just makes it so researchers can do the behaviors, right? They have a place to do it, an ease to do it, and the community norms are shaping around. So it's very early still in the sense that all of these are promising. They're all getting adopted, but we certainly wouldn't say that these are normative practice yet across the research community. But it's nonlinear growth year over year for the last 5 years. So that's very encouraging for all of it.
And the goal is that eventually, if you can get it normative, then all of a sudden, not only does a scientist not feel like they can't do this, they feel like everyone's doing it. And so not only can they do it now, they feel like, oh man, this is how you do good science.
Yeah, right. And what's amazing about this is that very early career researchers, right, grad students who are coming into grad school, they see these behaviors and say, well, of course, isn't that how it's always been done? Like the behaviors that we are promoting are ones that everybody assumes is how science operates. Like, of course you share your data. Like, it's science, right?
So something you shared with me, we were on another call earlier, but that I just this blew my mind. So I knew that sometimes researchers wouldn't share their data with like the public. And first of all, I thought the percentage of people who shared their data was much higher than it is, or at least was. But I totally assumed that every time you submitted a paper for peer review, the peer reviewer had all your data. Yeah. Of course, right?
Of course you would assume that.
But it's not true.
No, it's not true. No, it is. Of course you would assume that, and it almost never happens. The assumptions that we have about how science operates are based on how we've idealized how science operates. And what has happened over the years is we've sort of implemented, not even really intentionally, but what is a culture of the process has emerged, which is very protective, which is, well, you asking me for my data is you saying you don't trust me. Like, that's a hostile act in the culture where really you just should read my paper and decide whether you like it or not from that. So even though researchers themselves recognize the value of transparency, because it hasn't been part of the daily practice in any meaningful way, it hasn't been part of the policy framework or the regulatory framework of how science operates, we've gotten very used to not doing it. And so one of the biggest hurdles to get over is just to normalize it. The norms function as normalizing. Oh yeah, of course you can do this. But once you start doing it, when it's a practice like this, it can shift very quickly. How could we do it any other way? Why would we have done it any other way? It doesn't make any sense that we would do it any other way.
Yeah, we absolutely need to change that. And you're right. It's sort of an ideology of science that we assume we just sort of like map onto the black box of science that a lot of us, the laymen do not understand. We just assume that's just how it works. And so we see the peer review like little line, and we're just like, oh, well, this is just 100% true. Right. This has to be true because it was, peer reviewed. That's just what peer review does.
Right.
Something else I want to talk to you about is reproducibility. And this is another thing. I mean, I just like confronting all these misconceptions in my own head because I feel like if I misconceived of them, probably there are a lot of people who do too. So there's, again, in the ideology of science, which is everything should be reproducible. And in practice, that is still holds we want them to be, but there's kind of like not much tested in that front. Not many things are reproduced. And that's because researchers are not incentivized. You don't get much career advancement for doing reproducible studies. You did a giant reproducibility study.
Yeah.
Walk me through a little of, also, I saw that the response to that wasn't all positive. I mean, first of all, when you reproduce something, you're not exactly the friends of the people whose paper maybe you reproduced or who's the chair of, Harvard, whatever. I forgot who got mad at you, but
everybody got mad at me.
Yeah. But how do we, number one, incentivize reproducibility? And also there needs, I don't know that maybe this is too idealistic, but it seems like there needs to be a decoupling of like someone's idea being published from holding on to it forever as like, this has to be true. Like scientists get attached to it having to be true, almost as like, if it's found to be wrong, I should lose my career or something. And that shouldn't be how it is. We should be open to being wrong and opening ourselves up to, okay, yeah, I totally got that wrong. Let's do better.
Yeah. Findings become like possessions, right? They're my identity. I am associated with this claim, and so I try to defend it in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you hit on another core challenge in this whole reform movement, which is the lack of incentives for doing replication studies, right? My career advances by showing things that are new, showing something that's exciting, showing something we haven't thought about before. But science really advances slowly through incremental confirmation, verification, qualification of the claims that we have. And so if we can't shift the environment towards incentivizing replication, it's going to be hard to have an efficient cumulative knowledge base. So the surprising thing in these large replication studies that we did, and there's more and more that are going, and many more fields are doing these sort of systematic replication efforts.
Great.
When we try to replicate published studies, a surprising percentage of the time we fail to replicate the original finding. Now that could be that the original result was wrong. It could be that we screwed it up in doing the replication, or it could be that there's some subtle difference between the two studies that we don't recognize how that it's important or relevant yet. But in whatever the explanation, the fact that we fail much more frequently than we might anticipate suggests that we need to pay a lot more attention to the reproducibility of our finding. And so that is an important thing to change. At the same time, we don't expect in our published literature, we shouldn't expect, I think, that everything is reproducible. Really, what science advances by pushing out the boundaries of knowledge, right? It's by challenging what it is we think we understand now with what might be.
Right.
So we're going to have lots of false starts, lots of false leads, lots of areas where we thought something exciting was happening, and then once we follow up, it turns out not to be true. That's totally okay. And in fact, that's a signal of a healthy science. But to your point, when you were just saying that people are holding on to these as possessions, right now, once something gets into literature, it's hard to get it out in the sense that science isn't very efficiently self-correcting.
Yeah.
Right? We're not challenging our findings effectively. And that's partly because we're not doing the replication studies. But that also is starting to change. There are many more replication is in vogue in some way. And the notion that replication is boring has been demonstrably false. People get very, very, very riled up with replication now, and it's very exciting and lots of debate, and some people mad, many people energized. And so that has been a very positive reorganization of how people think about replication. Is it's a way to confront our existing understanding and see where it needs to be improved.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. I mean, to your point, I saw something where they go, how much of the literature would you expect in a really healthy scientific community to be replicable?
Yeah.
And nobody was thinking 100%. Nobody thinks all studies should be true. The important thing, though, as you said, is that when they are wrong, we should reasonably expect that we do catch these things, and hopefully as soon as possible to realize that, this path is completely useless. Yeah. We should, pivot off to a new direction. And that's where sort of the problem is if you don't have incentives. Scientists are not martyrs. We should not expect them to stake their career and throw away a good career in order to be heroes in the scientific, don't get paid much to replication. We should incentivize these things and incentivize the people basically going back with a fine-tooth comb and be like, wait, this should be a regular part of science. And I want to get your point on this. First, how can we, you said we're more and more normalizing that. Is there any kind of injunction we're making on the journal level or anything like that? And then two, do you think that I've seen all the claims of a replication crisis around psychology mostly and biomedicine, and there's sort of an epistemic superiority around the physics, chemistry. I want to get your take on that. Maybe, yeah. So I guess I asked you two questions.
All right. Well, I'll answer the second one first, and it is very much. There is most of the attention has been on psychology and biomedicine, but by and large, because those are the communities that are actually looking. So yes, it may be that there are bigger challenges in some fields than others. We don't actually have a good evidence base to assess that yet, because every community that has started to examine the reproducibility of its findings has found it to be below what they might expect. Have found areas where replication has not been easy. And it's hard to characterize at a discipline level what the replicability rate actually is, right? There's all kinds of places of variation. Like in my field, psychology, there are some areas where replicability is very, very high, others where it's low. And so we're still trying to unpack where is it that this is a challenge? Why is it a challenge in some places more than others? I think as the broader research community looks at this more closely, we collectively will find that it is a challenge for everyone. And there are some ways to make it more efficient and better operating than others. And some fields will be leading and others will be following. That's how it goes. So then you had incentivizing replication.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting challenge because new and exciting findings are drivers of new directions, right?
Just is what it is.
It is more exciting than the verification efforts that happen with replication. It's possible to have new innovative ideas come out of replication efforts and maybe even frequent. But we sort of have to acknowledge that there's likely to be a standing difference there. So there are a number of different things that research communities are doing. The basic fact of replication is now understood in some areas to be publishable is a big step because a lot of this replications had been getting done. They're just getting file driven. People do them to try to get mastery in a new area, succeed or fail to replicate it, and then put that data aside and go on to do innovative, novel research, whatever. So that is helping. But this is an area where funders can play a particularly good role, which is to actually make calls for replication studies for areas of research that are important, right? Researchers need the money. Funders sending a signal that the replication is valued can be really useful. And there are some really innovative ways that could be conducted as well. So funders can do things like say, here are the top 10 studies that were published by research that we funded in the past. Past 5 years, we've identified these as the most amazing findings. We will fund replications of those 10 studies. Just propose specifically how you can conduct those. Right? there's all kinds of things where we could use resources in a very efficient way to target those things that are the most important findings, the things that are changing the direction of a discipline, to work on verification so that instead of spending $100 million on the preclinical clinical pipeline and then discover that it wasn't actually a reproducible finding, you spend a lot less money up front, seeing, okay, yeah, this part we understand, this part we don't understand, here we're having some reproducibility chance, whatever, but get that verification initially to then justify the bigger investments following.
And this seems like, like particularly interesting. I think you hinted at it in like medicine and things like that, where the application really matters and you end up actually just pouring a ton of money into it anyways.
Yes.
And so, as you say, like an injunction early on could be possibly more
so efficient, right? To be able to have that intervention early on. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, give me like, I know our time's wrapping up here. Give me like a horizon of the open science movement. The good thing is that we're seeing progress.
Yeah.
Of course, the bad thing is that we've just seen how big the problem is.
Right.
And so it's easy to get a little bit like I'm like making 2 videos and I have a whole interview about how bad the problem is.
Yeah.
One of which is your story of your story of feeling like, okay, I shot myself in the foot by doing a replication. You know.
Right.
So talk us through whether you're optimistic, what you see the landscape being.
Yeah, well, I am congenitally optimistic, so that will always be the case. But I think there's good reason to be optimistic here. The challenges are big, but the huge lever that we have is that the research community already recognizes almost universally that the culture of incentives is not ideal, that changing it would be great. And that's been understood for a long time. But what's different this time, what's different now, is that the stakeholders in science are getting together to actually make change. And there is a substantial grassroots movement across different disciplines of people saying, we can change this, right? There's an activism component of recognizing that the culture exists because the members of the culture let it exist. And that we can change that culture of incentives and norms and policies and practices. So the mindset, I think, is in the right place for change. We also are seeing adoption of some of these solutions, right? We know what the behaviors are that need to be done. Pre-registration, sharing your data, your materials, your research process. There are physical infrastructure solutions to help make that happen. And these norms and incentives and policies are gaining adoption. And so that nonlinear growth, as long as we can continue advancing that as a collective, we will see substantial change. Then the next component, I think, beyond that, if you're talking sort of horizon, is, okay, we're now seeing what people are doing, but how can we make it more credible? How can we up their game of the quality of the research? And one of the projects that I'm most excited about for this sort of horizon time is called SCORE. And the goal of SCORE is to create automatic indicators of research credibility. So as everything else, let's let the machines figure it out for us. Machines read the papers that are coming out in science and give the findings scores. This one's a 97. We can really trust it. This one's a 32. I don't know about that one, right? If we can validate machine learning methods for assessing initial credibility of claims, then it could dramatically improve our efficiency of identifying areas of uncertainty in the ecosystem of scientific evidence, so that we can much more efficiently direct our resources to saying, that's really important, but it's got a low score. We're not so sure about it. Let's follow up on that. And this parts that are credible and we can trust, translate that to policy, move ahead, whatever. That, I think, is really going to be transformative if it will work. And so there's a massive project that we're a part of and many other groups are involved in. Mm-hmm. It's a huge collaboration. More than 800 people have volunteered to contribute to assess the credibility of research claims with experts and then have machines try to assess the credibility of those claims. And then we're running replications of a subset of them to validate whether the experts in the machine.
So it's like this huge training set to get machines kind of spun up on how to read scientific findings, the importance of like sample sizes versus like power versus, you know, all these different metrics. That's really interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah.
My only concern, and this is more just like cynicism. Actually, so you know Goodhart's law?
Yeah, sure.
So I'd be a little bit worried that like everyone would then start figuring out, how do I get the perfect score? What do I?
Yeah, of course.
What do I optimize? You know, what are the machines caring about now?
What people behave towards. Absolutely. So luckily, as we know from the Terminator series, the machines will always stay a step ahead. And so they'll just keep innovating against us. And the fight will be glorious, but we'll see. You know, they keep making the movies, so I'm figuring it's something that never quite ends. So I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
But you're right. That's a big challenge. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a good way to end it. An optimistic, cool idea
on Terminator. That's it.
With also some challenges in the Terminator. That's really awesome. Once again, I just want to thank you. I don't think even my viewers know what a treat it is to have you on. I mean, you're like, I was actually shocked when I got you on the show, and I'm really appreciative of your time. I know you're like...
Wait! Stop! $31,000 in profit in one day using fully automated AI!
Yep, just another day in paradise, boys. Hello, welcome to the $10 million studio. I'm your host, Coffeezilla. Today, of course, we're talking about some more scumbags. Listen, hey. First things first, okay? Gotta match this man's energy. That's right off the bat. Let me say this. It's the new hot thing, right? AI. So you thought it was improbable that a 20-something-year-old could make successful trades. So you thought that was hard to believe, that he's going to make you rich by day trading his way to your success. Do you believe that he'd write an AI script? If I use enough buzzwords like AI, bot, machine learning, automation, are you starting to believe me? Can I get an amen from the crowd here? If I say AI, do you say, I'll give you my wallet? Because that's what these people believe. Now, this is what happens when you give a man far too much Colombian cocaine.
And the crazy thing is by you just watching this video right now, you could have fully automated your business. You can start making money as early as today.
Wait, is it a business or is it trading? Hold on 1 second. Stop. What is it?
Literally just by clicking the tutorial. Okay, now look at this guy right here. He made $300 in one day. This guy right here made $600 in a day.
Did he blank out what the trade was? He said what it did, but then he blurred out the trade. Oh boy, we're gonna get into it today, guys. Wow. Sorry, I'm having to really look at that trade there.
Is that not enough?
This is a psychopath.
Take it down a notch. It's creeping a bit.
If you go into business with this guy, you're going into bed with a psychopath. By the way, I know some of you guys are like, obviously there's a joke, right? No. It's unlisted and it has a bunch of views, meaning they're running ads on it. And then it's something called FX mode, which is, we're going to get into the whole thing. But it's a real service is what I'm trying to tell you. This is their legitimate pitch.
Boom! Here's 1,600. Oh, goddamn, this is tough.
Aww. What?
Boom! Here's 1,600. Oh, goddamn, this is tough.
What's going on? You just had a little second line, huh?
Aww. Did they do all of that without having to do any work on their own? Because it's fully automated for you?
This is what peak human performance looks like, you guys. You see a scammer, I see a man trying to make a living here, trying to feed his family.
Do you work a 9-to-5 job? So shut up, get off your ass and do what this guy did. He made $10,000 in one day without laying a finger on it.
I feel like I have to counteract some of his energy. It's a lot. It's a lot. But this is what it's come to. Listen, you keep upping the ante. Look, now you got 19-year-olds saying they're millionaires. It's hard to compete with that. You gotta go full cocaine. You gotta pull a Steve Ballmer. I mean, what do you want me to say?
This is literally an extra $5 to $10K a month without having to do any work at all.
Finally. Thanks for saying that. $5 to $10K a month without having to do anything at all. Yeah, but it's probably not a get-rich-quick scheme though, right? Probably not a get-rich-quick scheme.
So get off your ass and click the tutorial. And now listen, I know this sounds pretty crazy to you guys, but the thing is, we've been doing this for over a decade now, and have been showing millions of...
I'm not sure this guy's been alive for a decade. He's a child. When did he start trading? When he was 7? Who is this guy? We've been doing it for 10 years now. Who are you? I have never seen you before. I don't know who you are. What are your qualifications, sir? Besides having a perforated nose. I mean, Jesus. All right, so you go to the page, FX mode. First of all, they sell you on a monthly plan or an annual plan, $295 per month to automate your trades, or obviously $19.95 per month. Now, why aren't they just charging management fees like most people do? Well, it's because maybe they're not as profitable as they say they are. And if you're not actually making money, it makes more sense to do a subscription service. So this says how members are making $34K passively using AI automation the first day. And then if you notice, if you zoom in real carefully there, bit of an asterisk right there. Well, at the bottom, let's see here. Earnings and income representations made by David Vloss, FX Books, and their advertisements are aspirational and not actually true. So, okay. Oh, interesting. So when you're saying I'm going to make $34K, that's what you're hoping for. You're hoping for that. You guys are hoping for us. Do you guys see how scummy that is? They bait you in. They go, you're going to make $34K in the first day using AI automation, using the coding bots, got the best traders in the world. Well, actually, what is it? It's nothing but aspirational statements. Now, I actually went to one of these YouTube channels called empireambition.com or something. He actually tested this FX mode. And what were his results? Were they aspirational? Did he make $34K in one day? Let's find out.
It's unfortunate, but for FX mode, we're going to have to give this one 2 thumbs down. Obviously, we did not pass testing. Minus 10.76%.
Oops. Minus 10%. Hey, they're not going to quit your job on that kind of salary. Also, on Trustpilot, they have one review. It's a 1 star saying nothing but scammers. Keep far away from these scammers. They make outrageous earning statements on their website claiming they have a top Ukrainian trader making their trades for them, when in actual fact, all they're using is a useless EA robot. This site is run by a bunch of kids who have absolutely no idea what they're doing. And more importantly, he had to get PayPal to force the refund that they say is no questions asked. They promise a no questions asked refund until you try to go get it from them. Now, I find it funny that you have one review on Trustpilot. It's a 1 star. Trustpilot goes, is this an average business? Is this average for us on Trustpilot? We get one guy, 1 star, 1 review, nothing but scammers. Trustpilot goes, is this an average business for us? So I have my beef to pick with Trustpilot, and let's start with your rating system, bud. How do you have actually 3.2? That's above average. How can you be above average if you have a 1 star, 1 review, 1 star, 3.2? This is insane. Anyway, so you go to their presentation, right? And you go to it, you're watching through, you find out some very interesting things. Now, in this presentation with beautiful graphics, they say that they have the top trader in the entire world.
I don't know what other way to explain it, but you're fully linked with the top trader in the world.
That's it, guys. That's all you have to do. Link up with this. It's a get-rich-quick scheme if I've ever seen one.
And we are the top traders in the world doing it.
Oh, there it is again. He's the top trader in the world. Now, who is this magical top trader? Who's one of these top traders? Well, you may remember from the disclaimer that David Vloss is one of these guys. Now, who's David Vloss? Oh, he's a YouTuber. Oh, he's a trading YouTuber, right? No. He's like one of these Mr. Beast type characters of like, I gave my first subscriber his dream car, surprising my brother with the new PS5, then destroy. Maybe he's more like a prankster. I don't really know. Oh, look at that. I copied stock trading pros like for a week, complete beginner. Ugh. This is the guy that you're relying on? I mean, literally in the disclaimer, this is the guy. This is what I'm talking about, guys. The people you're following have no idea what they're doing. This guy learned what trading was December 24th, 2020. Oh my gosh. I can't take these guys.
I know these traders that have been trading since around 2011, and they've been getting crazy results.
Okay, so I guess these are the guys he teamed up with, this decade-long team here.
Like they know what they're doing, and they've been trading stocks, or they trade stock options and sometimes stocks as well. They hold shares long term, but the main thing they do is trade options every single day that the market's open.
So everybody's an expert now. Everyone's just an expert. You've been trading for 5 days. I've been trading for 4 days. You can sell me a $2,000 course. Like, no, you can't. You can't. And you can't promise me these wild results. 34K in a day, and this guy just started copying trades. What are we doing? What? I swear, if this is a prank on me, maybe this guy looks like a prankster, right? He looks like a prankster. Maybe the YouTube channel hasn't been doing well. Maybe he's pranking me. I don't know what's going on, in all honesty. All I see is this. These crazy promises being made to kids who are desperate.
Just a moment of truth. There's really no going back here. As soon as I put this on, it's game over. The beard is gone forever.
Yo, what up? Boys, we're back. Looking fresh. As you guys know, a few weeks ago, I auctioned off this beard for charity.
This monstrosity ain't coming off until we get one of these internet marketing companies up in my DMs.
Hey, side note, I have to interject here. Sorry. Where'd my tan go? What the hell happened to my tan? It's only been a few weeks, baby. This is pathetic. If you've seen my tan, please report it. Please email me. Anyways, back to the video. Who came but the perfect sponsor? You know, it wasn't some big dog from the shaving industrial complex. It was a mom and pop shop, a company with integrity, with culture. And that company, of course, is Pacific Shaving Company. Guys, you have to understand. Before this, I was working with like a $2 razor from Walmart. So to upgrade at this level, you know, get this caffeinated shaving cream they gave me. They sent me the works, you know, they gave me the aftershave balm. And let me say, it was a delight to shave with these products. But more importantly, we gave the money, $1,500 to Rescue America, a human trafficking charity. It's the favorite charity of the groom at the wedding that I was attending. I gave it to him as a present. And, you know, I'm just really proud Coffeezilla was able to, you know, do this. And if you'd like to support more things like this, please go to pacificshaving.com. You want a great shave. I can vouch for them. And they're surprisingly affordable. So go check them out, pacificshaving.com, or follow them on Instagram, Pacific Shaving. Now, without further ado, let's get into this. At the moment you guys have all been waiting for. Paid dating apps are for simps. What? You say? No way. Hey, I'm just trying to get more matches. I'm just trying to get out there. Well, I've got a presentation for you today. I put it together. It took me a lot of hours. It's a slideshow. Paid dating apps are for simps according to math. Now, first of all, what is a simp? It means a guy. Hold on, let's move this screen. It means a guy that is overly desperate for women, especially if she's a bad person, or expressed disinterest in him, which he continues to obsess over. Sorry, guys, about that. That is an Urban Dictionary definition. But I think we get the point. Now, are you a simp if you pay for a dating site? Well, the evidence is clear. I crunched the numbers. I did the math. Our chart says that, 21% of you are definitely simps. 34% are the opposite of pimps. 10% it is assured. And 32% you're almost certainly a simp. Okay? So those are the numbers. Don't argue with me. Hey, look at me. I didn't invent math. You know what I mean? I didn't invent numbers. Ask Archimedes why you're a simp. I mean, don't bring it up with me. That's my point. Don't get mad at me. I'm just a humble servant, you know. This is just simple calculus, okay? You're a simp. Now, why is that? You're going to ask, Stephen, why? No, you're showing me charts, all these incredible numbers, but why? Well, let's go through the logic here. The logic is when you pay for a dating site, you're simping for Match Group Incorporated, who has a monopoly over these dating sites. I bet you guys didn't know that. I didn't know that before getting into this. Match Group Inc. owns 74% of the total monthly unique visitors to the top 6 online dating websites, and that's because they own Tinder. They own Match.com. They own OkCupid. They own Hinge. They own Plenty of Fish. They own all these sites. Now let's talk about the scam itself, boys, because I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Steven, is it really that big of a deal? What did they really do that's so bad? I just want my Tinder Gold. Am I really a simp for wanting Tinder Gold? Well, let's get into it. Match.com was sued by the FTC. And here's what Match Group, what their scam was, okay? So obviously there's a lot of bots on these dating sites. Everyone knows that. But what Match Group would do is they would have a flagged account, probably a bot, right? And it's liking people left and right. And what Match Group would do is they'd send you an email advertising that you have a match, right? This is what they would do. And basically the idea is you have to pay in order to read what they sent you, okay? Now, Match.com knows ahead of time that this is probably a bot, but they would send you an ad anyways and say, hey, sign up for our premium subscription, whatever model, in order to see this person, right? See who likes you. And so you'd go and you'd sign up for it, and then the match would disappear because they don't want to advertise a bot. Now, based on this, they paid for 499,000 subscriptions within 24 hours of receiving an advertisement touting a fraudulent communication. So 499,000 subscriptions, that might not sound like a lot, but it's an ungodly amount of money that they're making from this scam. And when people complain, this is my favorite part, okay? This is honestly my favorite part. Match.com would apparently say to people, hey, please be assured Match.com does not send members misleading notifications. No. Emails or winks professing romantic interest. We have too much respect for our members to ever compromise their trust. Oh, the irony. Too much respect for you, dude. Oh, this is who you're simping for. These people. Too much respect. Now, how much did they sell out their respect for? Well, according to a conservative estimate I made, they made roughly $17 million from accounts they knew were bots. That's how much they made in subscriptions from bots. But that's not all my evidence, because next I want to talk about the guarantee scam. And this is an even bigger scam. So the guarantee scam was something Match Group did, and it was their little bundle here. And apparently you got the match guarantee. See that, guys? See that right there? The 6-month match guarantee. Ooh, wow. Amazing. Now, you're thinking, okay, the match guarantee apparently is something where, okay, if you haven't found someone special within 6 months, we'll give you an extra 6 months free. So you sign up. It's an expensive dating site. Let's go back a little bit. $19.99 per month for 6 months. That's $120. That's expensive. But they're saying, look, you signed up for 6 months. We'll give you an extra 6 months free. Now, that's their little match guarantee. But the match guarantee comes with some strings. Comes with some strings you have to know about. That you don't know about if you don't click Learn More. Now, if you click Learn More, you discover it's not as easy as you thought to get these little things, okay? So if you click Learn More, you get this, which is during your 6-month subscription, you must create a truthful Match.com profile with a primary photo and keep it visible to the public. Respond to or initiate email communication with at least 5 unique Match.com members each month through the Match.com service, and then comply with all of the Match.com guarantee program rules below. Look at this gigantic wall of text. You're expected to read that, because if you don't read it, you're going to not get the guarantee. You know what I mean? Because this is all the rules you have to follow in order to get this thing. So you think you're signing up for $120, free 6 months? No. Now, on top of that, let's say you get to the end of the 6 months and you think, because you haven't read all these rules, these little rules, all these qualifying rules, you got to send a qualifying email, all this stuff. You think you're just the program's going to end. No. They're going to auto-renew you for the 6 months without telling you. So not only do you not get the free 6 months, but then they auto-renew you for another $120. Now, to show you how misleading this was for people, okay, let's look at the actual numbers. Let's look at the numbers right here, boys. According to the FTC, people purchased 2.5 million subscriptions here. Now, of those 2.5 million that received subscriptions that should be eligible for the 6-month, renew, the 6-month renew after they don't get a match or whatever, only 32,000 actually got the renew. So 1% of people eligible for this free match guarantee actually got the guarantee. Now, in contrast with that, over 1 million people who purchased the guarantee got rebilled for an additional 6-month package. So 40% of their subscribers got rebilled for that $120. Now, due to this misleading guarantee, how much did Match.com make? $120 million. Million, guys. Are you Are you kidding me? This is what these guys are making. So, what's my conclusion here? Well, my conclusion is as follows. Match Group, the monopoly over all the dating apps, made $137 million from fraudulent practices. And what does it show you? They want to get subscribers more than they actually care about you getting a match. And back to what a simp is, right? What is a simp? Let's go back a few slides. What's a simp? A guy who's overly desperate for women, especially if she's a bad person or expressed disinterest in him, and which he continues to obsess over. Now, I'm bending the definition a little bit because obviously we're calling a company as you can simp for a company. But I'm going to say, yes, you can. These guys keep paying for these dating sites that show clearly that all they want is for them to keep paying, and they're not necessarily going to get you these matches. So look, what am I saying here? Am I saying to stop using the dating site? No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, men, have a little respect for yourself. When somebody defrauds a bunch of people like you because who are just looking for love, and they show repeatedly that they want profits over matches. They're being sued for it. If you continue to support them, you're a simp. That's what you are. It's what you are, and you can take it however you want. But regardless, guys, of whether you're a married man, whether you're someone who pays for these dating apps, or whether you're just a freemium user, whether you're not dating at all, tell me in the description box below. What do you think? Do you think you can simp for a company? And if so, do you think Match Group is worth simping for? And let me know what you think in the comment section below. Guys, once again, big thanks to our sponsor today, PacificShaving.com. Go follow them. Go buy some razors, some shaving cream. Support the channel. Support some charities. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the support, ladies.